For years, India's space story was synonymous with ISRO. But over the last few years, something interesting has happened. The engineers who once built rockets for the National Space Program have stepped out to build companies of their own. And now one of those companies, Skyroot Aerospace, this is based out of Hyderabad, is preparing for the launch of Vikram-1, India's first privately built orbital launch vehicle, under Mission Aagaman. Interesting name, yeah. So, but if successful, this could mark the moment of India's private space finally saying, now we are done with pitch decks, it's time to ship products. And joining me to unpack this a lot more, Sanjana Gupta is here, who's a senior journalist who follows this sector in depth, and we will shed light on the most important details of the launch. Thank you so much, Sanjana, for joining me. And how are you doing
today? Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good as well, and I think you're going for the launch as well tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. So how are you feeling? Like, is there?
Pretty excited for that. I mean, to be at Sriharikota and just take in the launch itself is a big thing.
I mean, it would be great to watch the.
I mean, looking forward to that.
I wish I could also go, but okay. So what do you think is this Vikram-1 moment like for India? Like, I mean, we always relied on ISRO.
Yeah.
But now...
I think it's a big step in India's private space journey. And when people say, oh, big step in private space journey, I don't mean just, for the sake of words. Okay. If you look at the actuality of it, Skyroot did launch the Vikram S rocket some years ago, and that was more of a, even though it did have 3 payloads, it was more of a test flight. The purpose of that launch was to understand how the tech is working and how it's going to go forward. Now this is the actual proper launch that they're doing with bigger payloads, more important satellites, and I think if this is successful, which everybody's really hoping for, it will be. I think this could really mark that alternative to ISRO. And I don't mean it in a sense of competition, but in a sense of how the ecosystem needs to grow.
Yeah. I think the space sector was opened in 2022, right, for the private people?
Yeah, with the formation of InSpace.
Yeah. So are you also betting on some other people to maybe do something?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, I mean, everybody knows about the bigger names in the private launch ecosystem, which is Agnikul and Skyroot. And I think the third player would be EtherealX, based out of Bangalore.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say these 3 are building that entire launch ecosystem, which I'm hoping, like in the US, you have SpaceX, and that is a monopoly player in the private segment. But in India, I'm hoping for a multiple player and not a monopoly, where we have different types of launches. The selling point of Agnikul is 3D printed rocket engines. The selling point of EtherealX is to have a fully recoverable middle stage of rocket. So I think
you did a podcast with Agnikul, right?
And yes. So we saw their entire facility, how they're 3D printing. It's very fascinating. And since all of these startups are focusing on a different aspect of the industry, they're not exactly competitors, but front runners altogether.
They're going to collaborate once again.
Yes,
that would be nice. So do you think this is like a SpaceX moment for India?
I mean, you could say that.
You don't want to call it a monopoly. That is true.
You could say that in terms of the forthcoming of the private ecosystem. But I would say this is the Skyroot moment for India.
So do you think now we can just say that Indian private space sector has just completely opened up?
Well, I think it had opened up quite some time ago.
I mean, we always thought that ISRO is doing everything cheaper, and now maybe commercially also they're growing a lot.
And I think the major difference between ISRO and these private players is that the capability of taking risk. With ISRO, it's such a old organization, and they always, not in a negative sense, but also tend to play safe in a lot of ways. But with startups, they're willing to take more risks, work with the capital, go out on maybe missions that may not be successful, but willing to take that leap. So I think in that sense, that is a major difference that comes along. And
this is like all these startups can come out of big tech, right, in the West. Like for ISRO, a lot of all these engineers at Skyroot Aerospace have been former ISRO engineers. Do you think that is like an ISRO mafia getting created in India when it comes to the space sector?
I think you could say that, because not just the launch ecosystem, but a lot of space startups in India have their founders who were previously ISRO scientists. And I would say this is also just helping the ecosystem in a sense, because they come out of ISRO, they have the kind of capability that this government organization has been working on for years. And then once they build their startup going forward, it helps them in a reverse way as well, because I know a lot of startups that are able to do their testing and stuff within ISRO in their infrastructure. So it kind of helps the ecosystem both ways.
Finally, we have a competition for PSLV from ISRO.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think that is a good thing. That's because of a lot of, I mean, if I can say, a lot of government things and all delays a lot of projects as well. So now,
no, definitely. And I think this startups also, with startups comes a bigger sense of transparency. I mean, definitely we've seen ISRO rocket failures happen, and the transparency or reason behind that just, you know, kind of doesn't come soon. Then by the time some reports happen, the industry forgets about it. But with others, like for example, the recent Galaxy launch, with the mission Drishti, after it got you know, destroyed by a sandstorm, as they had mentioned. I think the founders did put out taking responsibility, talking about it, what kind of tests they were already able to do, what they want to do going ahead, what is the future plan. So in terms of startups, I think because they also need to put out their future plans soon, considering their capital incentive. So
So, but what is in this for India when you compare it globally, right? A lot of people are launching payloads 50 kgs, 300 kgs and a lot more. So what is in it for India?
I think for India, it's I
mean, it is a proud moment, but what specifically is there for India? Like, what should
I think it's a starting point to reaching a space where launches is not just something where, you know, okay, ISRO has scheduled this launch, and this launch this year, and there are 3 launches happening, and everybody is building their payloads according to that. When you have more private players putting out more launches, there will be frequent launches. There will be startups that are building to, let's say, have your satellite already in the sky and send a smaller payload that can go fix your satellite in case something happens. So with the more of this ecosystem growing, I think the ease of accessibility is something that we are looking to achieve.
I just got reminded of that interstellar scene where there's like the docking sequence, right? Okay, someone can send a payload and something.
I mean, who knows?
But also coming to this, the fact that you mentioned that a lot of announcements are just not there, something is finally happening. I just can't control myself and compare it to India mission, right? We keep hearing for the last 1 or 2 years, this model is coming, that model is coming. I don't know where those models are, but I think...
And it's just been a GPU story for forever.
I don't want to go on that with you, but at the same time, I want to touch upon the name part as well, because when we see all these models, AI models coming from Sarvam, Bharat, they are all very Indian named, and same goes for Vikram-1 as well, and the campaign is called Aagaman. So why do you think that name, does it struck a bell with Indian audience? That is why they choose it?
Yeah, no, definitely. I was having a chat with somebody from Skyroot some time ago, and so the name Vikram is inspired from Vikram Sarabhai. It's an ode to him that this entire mission and the private ecosystem is taking off. And in that sense, I would say, as much as other missions in the world are great, I think we definitely come forward in terms of how we name our missions.
Safe. Okay,
because
but what about Aagaman?
Aagaman means to arrive. So essentially they're signaling at how the Indian private ecosystem in terms of launches especially, has arrived at its moment. So this is like an entry point in a sense, because even though there are other startups that are building payloads and satellites, they have been launching that through ISRO rockets or through SpaceX rockets. But in terms of the launch ecosystem, this is, I would say, Aagaman.
That is nice. I think India, knows better how to name models. I mean, if I just think of it. I mean, SpaceX one is called Falcon. I mean, okay, that might also have a good story. Maybe we should call it Phoenix.
I mean,
I will not.
I would suggest. I feel Aagaman is more relatable to the Indian public. You know, everyone's like, okay, we are proud of what we've done in the country.
Exactly. So I think that would be a good starting point. Do you think we'll be able to produce enough rockets in the coming years? How many are you expecting?
I mean, at some time ago, I think the Skyroot founder had also talked about how he has ambitions of, launching 1 rocket per month. And imagine if that were to happen.
1 rocket per month,
The kind of, space that opens up for all the startups here. They would be able to send their payloads as and whenever they want. They'd be able to move faster in terms of their supply chain journeys, their making journeys. In case somebody's payload fails, the recovery time and then launching again would also happen faster. So, I mean, I don't know if the rocket launches will happen that fast, but I think definitely tomorrow's launch will open up a path for all the other startups who are getting into the space.
I have a very stupid question here. I don't follow the space sector much. I don't know any technical details. What do all these 300 kgs of payload exactly contain?
So they contain testing infrastructure.
Okay.
For example, let's say if a startup is sending a payload to, for example, you have a startup called PureSight.
Yeah.
So they do mapping of oceans for different, like let's say oil spills or illegal fishing, etc.
Yeah.
So if you have a startup like that, they need mapping essentially as a tech.
Yeah.
So their payload contains different test equipment that they send up, and once the satellite is floating, as and when it aligns with the Earth's
docking.
So that is when they do tracking of all these oceans. Let's say if it's another startup that does thermal tracking of the Earth's surface. So they have a different type of equipment that does that
Maybe
kind of
they need
tracking.
to store their data more over there, because I think...
Yeah, so I think that is another challenge that's been coming up, which is once you have some data tracked up, how do you send it to the ground center?
Maybe data centers in space will help that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely that will be an option. At the moment, it's happening through optical channels, and there is a startup which is upcoming, which is trying to, fix that communication better. So I think there's a lot of potential in the space ecosystem in very different nuances of the, each step of just a launch to a satellite and everything. So mostly these payloads are different types of operations that these companies are looking into, and then they try to do tests, and then once the test is successful is when they hope to launch a proper satellite which will function for, I would say, years to come. Until
I think I was also looking at one of the releases or things, I don't remember very well, but I think apart from just the data center part, the Edge AI is also going to contribute a lot because of the analysis from there and everything. So coming to that, I think one more question that comes up is the sovereign part. I think we are talking a lot about sovereign AI. We are talking a lot about sovereignty when it comes to chips. So do you think this is also like a sovereign space moment?
Yeah, definitely. I think, when we talk about sovereignty, there's a lot of people, including myself, too, at some point, who would question, okay, how much of your material is out of India? How much is this? How much is that? But I would say, at the end of the day, the material is not what matters as much as the tech that you're building. So if you look at Agnikul, the powdered material that they get through which they 3D print their engines, that material doesn't come out of India. That powder they source from somewhere in Europe, as far as I remember.
That is the same like TSMC is making chips, or to some extent.
So the powder material comes from somewhere else. But then what matters and what makes them Agnikul is that the kind of the design that they have for the 3D printer. Not the logo. The design that they've inbuilt in the 3D printer. What I saw is their IP design. So nobody else apart from them know how to do that particular print that they are doing. So at the end of the day, the tech that you do, the design you build in houses is what matters more.
I think more than the hard, that is where the semiconductor industry is also heading. Like we need to design our own chips, not just produce the hardware from
I mean, designing is something we've been doing for a long time in India.
But mostly,
but production is not happening. There, the problem is the reverse.
So do you think we have a lot of startup incubators in India? Do you think now ISRO has become a startup incubator? We have so many companies like Skyroot is there, Pixel is there.
I think to an extent, yes.
It's like the Y Combinator of space tech.
I would say to an extent, yes. But I feel there's a bigger role played by organizations like InSpace, because if you look at how fast the space ecosystem is growing, maybe robotics or quantum is not something that's progressing as with such speed as space. And I feel InSpace as an organization has a lot to do with that, considering they are the major link between any HAL or ISRO and these startups. So you need more and more connected organizations, and I think that's something that plays a big role.
But when it comes to Vikram again, the Vikram-1 launch, now the private sector is going to get opened up. A lot of startups will collaborate with Skyroot for this. So what is now ISRO going to do?
ISRO will continue their launches.
And what is the focus going to be?
With ISRO, I think So with ISRO launches, it's not just that the rocket is getting launched for these startups to put their payloads.
Yeah.
ISRO has a lot of their in-house different research departments that do different type of research in various sectors. So they launch their own payloads as well. And apart from ISRO, they also launch payloads of other government entities throughout India. So I'm pretty sure that work will continue.
Okay. So is it like ISRO is becoming like a services company for space tech startups?
I wouldn't say that yet. ISRO is still the core of it. I mean, while this is a great achievement, ISRO still remains at its place. I mean, if you look at the US, SpaceX is somewhere really big.
Yeah.
Did that nullify NASA?
Okay, yeah, that is true. Okay, so ISRO has a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
So I think government recently said that they want the space economy to grow from 8 billion to 40 billion by 2033.
Yeah.
Do you think this is one of the biggest steps for that?
I would say, yeah. I think, or more like this is a starting point which will start a chain reaction amongst other startups, because once this happens, then there are more and more startups coming in, more and more startups building, and more aspiring founders who see that, okay, the ecosystem is open, we can do launches, we can try out something. So that becomes an Aagaman entry point for all these founders as well.
Okay. Where do you, I mean, you've been tracking this space for a long time. I mean, not for 30 years when ISRO, I mean, but so will you call this the inflection point for Indian space economy, the Vikram-1 launch?
I would say it's a quite big point, yes. Definitely, I mean, even Agnikul and Skyroot have done their test launches before.
Yeah.
Those were, in a sense, a bigger inflection point, because that validated that, okay, a private startup can do a launch.
Yeah.
At the moment, we know that they can do a launch, and it's just a bigger scale, and this is an official launch, so definitely it's a big point. But I think the bigger entry point was for them to even prove that, okay, they were able to do this.
Okay. So one last final hot take from you. Who do you think this is going to be the Skyroot Aerospace, is going to be the SpaceX of Asia?
SpaceX of Asia.
I mean, we don't know much about what other Asian countries.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I mean, if you look at China, they also keep doing their own launches. So there is definitely a lot of improvement, a lot of we can look forward to from the ecosystem in Asia after this launch. And you know how we also have startups that put their payloads on like SpaceX and other companies if an ISRO launch is not planned in the timeline that they are looking at. So I think similarly, this could always provide an alternative space. It will definitely depend going forward on what the policies from the Indian government are around, you know, other countries approaching with their payloads.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
And I think that would be something to look forward to, because you know, as we talk about sovereignty, we also need to talk about opening up the ecosystem, because that is what will make us reach to the 44 billion that we are aiming at.
By 2023.
And I think that is what something will really define how this changes.
Exactly. But I think before I let you go, I think I just want to clarify one thing very importantly, that even if we take names like SpaceX, NASA, I mean, where the space industry in India right now is headed, I think it's a very proud moment.
Definitely.
And we are looking forward to the Vikram-1 launch, and you're going to be there, and I would video call you maybe and see how the launches are.
Definitely.
And so thank you so much, Sanjana, for coming to Front Page. It was lovely talking to you.
Lovely talking
to you. This story is very inspiring what Vikram-1 is doing. And Sanjana shared some inspiring and motivational insights on this. And we will be watching this very closely. But as we watch Vikram-1 prepare for the liftoff, the stakes are much bigger than a single mission or a single company this time. Because this is a test of whether India can build a complete private space ecosystem, from launch vehicles, satellites, to global customers and commercial scale. And despite anything, this is already creating history. And India's private space sector has finally arrived. So let us know what you think in the comments below. This is Front Page by IIM Network. Like, share and subscribe. And remember, think AI, think space, think AIM.